All right, Soprano review. Before I begin, I just want to handle a few items. The first being Ratchet Clothing, our sponsor. I'm going to put a link down below. You could check them out. Ratchet's a clothing company out of the UK. They have clothing for men, women, and children. And secondly, I want to give two big thank yous out. I received two gifts. One is a bullet journal. It has my name on it, and it says in Italian, "The Lion, the Author." And the person that sent it, I thank you very much. I appreciate it. And the second is a gift, and it's an old picture that somebody acquired, and they sent it to me, and I really appreciate it. I'm sure everybody's going to like it. So it's a nice looking picture, and I appreciate that. You know who sent it. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're reviewing Season 1, Episode 9, The Sopranos. The scene starts out with Livia, Junior, and AJ. They're at the cemetery visiting Johnny Soprano's grave. And as is her norm, Livia is complaining about her son Tony, and she refers to him as a mental patient. At the same time, Tony is at Meadows' soccer game. He's with Silvio and Artie Book. At one point, Silvio thinks that the ref made a bad call. He calls him an asshole, and then he tells him, "If you blow that whistle one more time, I'm going to stick it up your fucking ass." You know, to be honest with you, Silvio is playing a friend, which means an inducted member in that life. That's not the way you carry yourself. You cannot act that way at all. Let's not forget, everything that you do is a reflection of your Borgata. And to make matters worse, instead of Tony Soprano pulling him to the side and giving him a little reprimand, he's seen applauding, so the scene is very fictional to me. So Tony and the guys and this coach, Hauser, are all celebrating the soccer team's win at the Bada Bing Club. The crooked lieutenant comes in and gets Tony and tells him about what he's heard about the upcoming indictments. And as I wrote, speaking of indictments, at the same time, Junior and this Mikey Palmise is at Junior's lawyer's office, and this Mikey turns around and gives his suspicions about Tony. He tells Junior the following: this government's case, if there's a leak, it's in Tony's boat. There's something fucking wrong with this guy. I feel it in my gut. Once again, he's talking about a friend and a capital regime, and he's also talking about Junior's nephew. Instead of Junior reprimanding him, he calls him a good boy. Unrealistic. So now while Meadow and her friends are out in the park drinking and smoking, she finds her friend Allie cutting her wrist. Tony Soprano learns of this and starts to talk to Dr. Melfi about it, and she asks him, was it a genuine suicide attempt or was it a suicidal gesture? Small cutting is the clinical term. And he answers her back in typical wise guy lingo. He says, what is large cutting? OJ in the missing tracksuit? Obviously, he's talking about OJ Simpson in that case. So Junior Soprano decides to take a vacation. He brings along his girlfriend, Bobby. While they're down there in bed, she starts talking about his sexual appetite for oral sex. And he tells her to keep that to himself. Growing up as a young guy, I always heard in the street that was frowned upon for whatever reasons. And Junior tried to explain this to her in his own words. In the next scene, Tony Soprano and Artie are having dinner in a restaurant when they spot a younger guy out with a date with a baseball cap on his head. And Tony Soprano approaches the guy and tells him to remove the cap. The kid kind of mouths off to him, and Tony Soprano's staring him down, and he finally takes the hat off. And I had mentioned in the blog that my own grandfather, years ago, when I would come to the dinner table and I had a baseball hat on, would get very upset with me and make me take it off. The old timers don't like that, and it is disrespectful to keep your hat on while you eat. So when Tony Soprano finds out that this Coach Hauser received an offer to go work at the University of Rhode Island, he becomes determined to prevent it. He sends Silvio to the guy's house with a 50-inch TV. And the coach gets very annoyed by this. He feels like he's getting pressured and he doesn't want to accept it. and he lets Silvio know that he has friends in law enforcement. The next incident that takes place is Christopher knocks on the coach's door. When he answers it, he tells him that he has his dog. He goes out to the car, and Christopher jokes about a reward, and then he adds that, just kidding, I'm an animal lover. I wrote, however, the message being a clear one, that this dog could disappear again. So they're trying to intimidate the coach into not taking the job. So Tony and Carmela are having dinner with Livia and Junior, and Tony asked his uncle how was his trip to Boca Raton. And Junior replied, wonderful, I don't go down enough. And Carmela starts giggling and says, that's not what I heard. So later that night, while they were in bed, Tony asked his wife what that was all about, and she explained that Junior's girl, Bobby, talked about his sexual appetite, and Tony got a big kick out of that. But then turned around and told his wife, what goes on in this bedroom stays here. As I wrote, giving credence to the old adage, the destruction of the mob comes from the mouth of women, and ain't that the truth? So outside a golf course, Mikey Palmisi tells Junior that he had Tony Soprano surveilled to a medical building. He was suggesting that Tony's meeting with the Fed. Once they were on the golf course, Junior brings up a fly ball that Tony Soprano missed, I guess as a young guy in Little League, insulting him. And I said, not missing a beat, Tony insults him back, tells him Uncle June's in the muff, a reference to his sexual appetite. Junior realizes what he's mentioning, and he gives him another insult by telling him, listen, my friend, at least I could deal with my problems, unlike some I know. That's in reference to what Livia obviously told him, that Tony Soprano's seeing a psychologist. So after showering in the locker room, Junior Soprano tells Mikey that Tony is seeing a psychiatrist. He uses the word psychiatrist, and he believes that Tony's discussing family business. And he goes further by tossing around the idea about killing Tony Soprano. This guy, Mikey, turns around and says, are you talking about clipping him? Which Junior adds, nobody would slap my wrist if I did, meaning that he wouldn't have a problem getting it done. So Meadow tells her parents that the coach has been sleeping with the girl Allie, who cut her wrist. Tony obviously storms off. He's very bothered by this. In therapy, he starts to bring it up to Dr. Melfi, who turns around and tells him, if you're telling me with the intent to harm this person, I must warn you of my duty to alert law enforcement. And he turns around and tells her, I don't know why I tell you anything. So back at the Bada Bing, Artie comes in to beg Tony Soprano not to hurt the coach. And Tony Soprano, before he throws him out, tells him, who the fuck do you think you are coming in here talking to me like this? And I wrote in the blog that you have to remember, Artie is a civilian, and a civilian has no business approaching anyone in that life, making any kind of suggestions or anything of that nature. So Junior, now realizing what these innuendos are, he goes and visits this girl Bobby at her job, a job that he placed her in, and he tells her, didn't I tell you to keep your mouth shut? And at one point, he takes a lemon meringue pie and mushes it in her face, and he calls her a stupid blabbermouth cunt, and he fires her. So Tony's contemplating whether or not he wants to hit this coach. Obviously, he had it on his mind. He set it in motion. He had Silvio ready to do the work, and he calls him up and calls it off. Very strange that he would call him on the phone like that. Nevertheless, while he's watching TV, it comes over the news that the coach is getting arrested. Obviously, after this, he got very drunk. He came home intoxicated, dancing and singing, and he winds up falling on the couch and telling Carmela that I didn't hurt anyone. And that's really how it ends. The episode was okay. I wasn't so crazy about it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Until the next time, ciao for now.